Is it on? Good morning. Shelley's going to start us off this morning.
Tell Dolores how good she's doing with her new microphone.
You will hear a cleared throat or a cough at some point. Just ignore it.
An invitation to rest. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." Let anyone who hears this say, "Come." Let anyone who is thirsty come. Let anyone who desires drink freely from the water of life. To God, approaching Him, seeking Him, opening our hearts to Him. Never doubt it, He will respond. Something all of us really want is rest, relaxation, and time off. Jesus has something to say to the person who is exhausted and worn out. He has something to say to people who have been chewed up and spit out by life. People who are frustrated, who are hurting. Here is His personal offer of rest to those who will respond. Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. This passage gives us the Christian life in a nutshell. Here we see what it is to come to know, and to walk with Jesus Christ. This invitation stands today, but it won't stay that way forever. What is this invitation? Jesus says, "Come to me." Stand, please, with us to worship this morning.
Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come. One day every tongue will confess you are God. One day every knee will bow. Still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come, willingly choose to surrender our lives. Willingly our knees will bow. With all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, we gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come, willingly we choose to surrender our lives. Willingly our knees will bow. With all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, we gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come, come, come. God, thank you for another morning of drawing us together on a colder morning, just being able to give us a place where we can join together and we can truly come and worship. God, as the song said, that one day every tongue will confess. One day every knee will bow. But God, help us not to be at a point where we're just waiting for the one day, but that we are living in such a way, we are desiring such a way that today and now is the day we confess that you're God, and our knee bows to you, and we allow you to be the one that runs the days that you breathe life into us. And through that, others see you. And in a time where it's just as much needed as it's ever been, they see hope, and they see love, and they see joy, and they see peace. And I pray that you use this time that we're gathered together, whether we're here in this building together, whether we are watching online at the moment, use this time to lead us a little closer to wanting to confess your God and bow our knee to you. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
That was a little better than what you gave her. All right. We'll try one more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Now, if you're online again, anything I can do for you? No. Wow. I think Siri just asked if there's anything you can do for me. So, all right. Anyway, if you're online, we want to hear good morning from you. But would you just turn around for a moment before we sit down, look at somebody? This time, go as far away as you can see and just point at them and just wave at them. Just know that they're there, okay? They're blurs to me, but maybe not to you. All right? And then you can go and have a seat, because we're going to go through a couple things before we go on here, if this doesn't talk to me again. It's supposed to actually be off, so give me just a second. Craig said good morning. Hey, on the count of three, how about good morning, Craig? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Good
Morning, Craig.
Hopefully he heard that. Anybody else that hasn't said good morning, too much for you? Huh? Yeah, and Sheila, that goes to her too, but she didn't say good morning to us, so that's only for Craig on this one. Hey, before we continue on this morning, again, just a few things to update with what's going on. First of all, I just want to share something that I realize is taking place. Our ability to communicate, on one hand, seems like it should be better, and in some ways it is, but in some ways it's been not good with the setup we're in. And we're working on that because we know that there's some people in conversations or phone calls or running into that people have wanted to share or have questions about or whatever that come up. I want to let you know we're working on that. But if you have something through things we've talked about or things going on or questions or concerns, please know that at least at the moment, you're always free to email us at the church, text me, call me, whatever, and let's talk as we continue to try and work this out. But in the meantime, we'll try and do the best I can to communicate some things going on right now at the moment or what's coming up in the near future. And it's probably going to get to be a little bit more coming up because, believe it or not, other than today, maybe it makes it a little easier, we are really close to the holiday season and Advent and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things we want to let you know about is it is that time for the Operation Christmas Child. And we are still going to do shoe boxes if you're comfortable taking a shoe box. Right now, there are some of them sitting out there underneath the clothes rack. I can't think what it's called, where you hang your coats. Anyway, it's sitting out there. If you've been a part of this in the past, the overall process, if you take a shoebox, is the same. There's information in here for helping to pack it and everything else. Janine put some together for us. But we want to let you know that that time is starting. During this week, we've been gathering the information. We are not a drop-off spot here this year. We ourselves are not a drop-off spot. We're just having, we're going to get it, and then we're finding out where the drop-off spots are that we can take them so that they will collect them
and get them to where they need to go. The other thing that they have provided, but we don't have all the information for yet and we're working on, is if you're uncomfortable taking a shoebox and going through that process physically, they've created a more online giving way, which my guess is probably going to be more just give them your money and tell them what you want, and they'll go from there. But that is available. We're getting that information. We'll try and get that out. So check your emails, check your Facebook and stuff. But also know that the opportunity, if you want to do just like you're used to doing, is here. And the deadline is sooner than we think, again, because we are in that time. If I have my dates correct, today's the 18th. We're almost already to Thanksgiving, just a little over a month away. And usually they need it before that time in order to get it where it needs to go for those that are receiving the gifts. So afterwards, after service, if you want, we have the boxes available, and we encourage you to still know that there are young ones at this time that love to receive a gift during this. It's a chance to bless those that don't get the opportunities that we get even now during this time and during this season. So those are available. The other thing that I wanted to remind you is going on is we are having junior high and high school Wednesday night youth right now. Alan's supposed to be back this week, so this will be the first week that we plan to split the two up in their own groups. Still come to the basement, those that have been coming, or if you tell somebody else to come and do what you've been doing, they'll do what they've been doing with the temperature checks and everything, and then they will split you up when it is time with the high school and the junior high. Those that have been here, I think so far, everything I've heard, April has done both of them together with Libby helping her, and it seems to me that our young ones are enjoying being back together. And I know that April herself, even though she's coming all the way from Logan, is really starting to enjoy our group and our group of kids and getting to meet with them. In fact, she told me the other day, the hardest thing is knowing they have all these sporting events coming up and stuff going on. They can't go to them or their different activities because she just is getting latched on to the different young ones that we have. So it's exciting to still have her be a part of that. But we'll get to split them up. Alan will get to start going with the high school a little bit. That'll be this week again at 6:30. Just a reminder, in case you haven't been around or don't know, we don't provide the meal right now. So especially high school and junior high that are hungry all the time and like to eat, you'll be really hungry till about 7:45 if you don't eat before, because we won't be providing that meal. So just a reminder that that's taking place. The only other couple things is I have been reminded, and I don't know if you want to say anything, Eileen, that they're still meeting Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings for prayer. They're meeting at the park right now. I got a feeling that's about to change, okay? Going to start meeting at Eileen's house, okay? And is it starting this Wednesday, you're saying? So starting Wednesday night at Eileen's house will be the time of prayer because, it's getting cold. So it's hard to do that, but tell us what time again, 7 o'clock on Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings. So that time of prayer is still being presented, or that's not the best word, but made available by Eileen and by Nancy. And I just want to encourage you on that. And the last thing is, and I say this one for last, and I had no idea that someone would be here, but we're continuing to want to help support and give to the Molson family as they go through this process with Garrett and the heart transplant. I actually am wearing, I don't know if you know, but they sold shirts, Christy de Sormere, and I think Neva, I think they're the ones that put this together. But I know I've talked to Christy quite a bit where they put together shirts that they sold. And I was told, and if I got this correctly, there were 300 shirts sold, which they were not expecting. That's pretty awesome. And these are the shirts. If you ordered one and haven't picked it up, be watching Facebook to find out when that is. I had to wear a jacket over mine because it already shrunk on me because, well, I didn't do the laundry this time. So anyway, mine's shrunk, and as much as it makes me look rocked up, Leanne says that's not the look she goes for because she sees the gut more than this. But there's a coat on here. But these are pretty cool shirts to be able to wear around and remind each other. It's not just the money part that goes to them, which that's great. It's also the reminder that this is going on when you're out in the community. If there's a young boy that is still waiting on that and going through this process of that heart, and then a family that's connected to that. And I have to tell you, just through our particular part where all we did was provided a chance for people to give, it's been incredible to see what has come in online. It's not just all from us. It's coming in from all over the place. And we want to remind you that opportunity is there. I'm really going to push it, especially for the rest of this month, on the giving part, so we can really build up a fund because they got a long process. Any new, still looking at at least the year, new updates or anything?
Yeah, we renewed the status of being on a higher priority listing, but it's still a matter of time.
So,
We have to just kind of wait and see what happens.
so they're still on that list and they're still a higher priority, which is good. They're able to renew that. But that right now, that's part of the hard part. But I did get to talk to Neil a little bit at a football game. And I don't know, I just got to tell you, the idea of these two schedule with these girls here and everything else in the back and forth, the Kansas City and the everything going on, there's a lot there. And so continue if you can to know that we'll take checks here in person or cash. Just give it to the church, make it out to the church, write Molson Fund on it. We'll make sure it goes there, or there is that online opportunity to give through our website also. So that is there. Now, the other thing I want to tell you about is in talking to Neil, which I have to tell you, he said, please let them know we are incredibly thankful for, and almost overwhelmed with just what's gone on overall. But one thing I was talking about, because I told you we're going to be providing meals, and our plan is to set it up for the year, actually, to try and provide a couple meals a week for the rest of the year. And I told him, and it was funny because his face just kind of lit up. He gave me one of those kind of Neil looks, and he just kind of smiled, and his face kind of lit up, and I was like, what's Dylan? And he goes, that's awesome, man. He goes, because I came home one night from Kansas City, driving home, and Stacy Molson had made a meal for them, I think put it in the freezer or something. And he goes, and I got home and was just tired and everything going on. And he goes, I put that in and I warmed it up and I gave it to everyone. He goes, it's amazing how incredible a home-cooked meal is when all I thought was McDonald's again or something like that. And he said that it was just never really thought about it. So we want to help provide that. We'll start that honestly in November. We're going to really push the financial giving through this month. I know they've had some other help with meals, but in November, a lot of it will be, Janine has found something online that we can sign up for so we can see what's still open. We'll introduce that to you if we plan to go with that. But also for those that aren't real good with being online, we'll help communicate so that you can also be a part of that also. But be looking for that in November, and just be thinking of those meals that you might be able to do to help them out. So I think on my end, that is it. Is there anything I might have missed?
Michelle is doing well. I got to go see her yesterday, and she's doing good, and she thinks she got her meals and been brought. So blessing.
Yeah, Michelle had her surgery. Michelle Gosser had her surgery, and as you saw, the email went out, some help with meals on there, and she said she's doing well. No, she has Bonnie helping take care of her, and she says she's been a great nurse on that end. And thank you for providing just in that particular case.
Because we go ahead and pray for everything. The family, right?
We can. I want to wait till a different part of the service, but I guess if you want to do it, then let's just go ahead and pray now. That being said, here's what I would like to do, and then we'll just let this go into our, let me just ask them real quick. Is there anything else we might have missed as far as just announcements or things? Because I don't want to pray and then just go back into announcements. Is there anything else we might have that we need to know? No? Okay. So here's what we're going to do. If you guys would just kind of focus your attention here towards the Molson family, towards Ingrid, towards the girls, if you need to, if it helps you to just hold out a hand, because we're not gathering around at the moment and everything else, and just hold out a hand and focus here. Would you just do that a minute? And as you do, Eileen, I'm actually going to ask you, since it's on your heart, just to pray for them, okay? And allow this just to take you also into this time of continued time of worship that we have here too, okay? Would you go ahead and pray?
Dear Heavenly Father, we just come before you, and we just lift up Ingrid and the girls and you and Garrett. We just thank you for that family, Lord, and we just ask you to bless them beyond anything that we could imagine. We just ask you to ready what's supposed to be happening, and that Garrett will get his new heart, Lord, and we just thank you for that. We just thank you, Lord, for this family, and we just want you to bless them. We just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. All your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. I will serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. I will serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. With all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. I will serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. I will love you, Lord, with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. I will love you, Lord, with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. With all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. I will love the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength.
Go ahead and stand again, please.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship your holy name. On that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. I worship your holy name.
Would you go ahead and have a seat one more time, if you would? And as we just got done singing that song, I just want to ask you, we're going to do something together. It's really a discipline. It's a way to go through a discipline that we'll be talking about as time comes up, and it's on kind of that discipline of prayer and talking to God. We're going to have some weeks ahead where we focus on this more, but it's good to practice some of the things now. We're going to do it as a group. We just got done singing, "Bless the Lord, O my soul." Why? What is it about him that would lead you to sing, "Bless the Lord, O my soul"? Just for a moment, just say it out loud, if you would. Just in one word, what's a reason that you can sing today, "Bless the Lord, O my soul"? What's something about him that leads you to adore him? That leads you to be able to say, "Bless the Lord"? Is there a characteristic of him that you think of that leads you to that? Because he's majestic, understanding, count on him, reliable, loving, because he loves me. Did I hear another one? What? He's life and truth and wisdom. Forgiving. Did you both just say the same thing? Forgiving at the same time. That's awesome. I mean, he's all these things. So with that in mind, here's the next thing I want you to do, and I don't want you to say this one out loud, unless you really, really feel bad. Is there anything you said or done this week, or thought, or felt, or whatever, that you need to say, "I'm sorry for," knowing this? I'm sorry. This wasn't right. With the understanding of your majestic nature, with the understanding of your ability to understand and your reliability and your forgiveness and your love and all these things that were just mentioned, your wisdom, the fact you give me life, with all these things, is there something this week even that you did or that you said or that you thought or that you felt to somebody that you need to go, "I'm sorry"? To him, not me, not to anybody else, but right now, but to him, and go, in the presence of you, because there's another thing, by the way, that he is holy. So far apart, he's holy. And with that in mind, would you just close your eyes a minute and say it to him? You know, don't look at the person next to you and go, what's the thought bubble in their head that they did? But you yourself, can you just say, "I'm sorry for this"? Knowing this, I'm sorry. Scripture tells us we need to be regularly confessing our hearts and our minds and our actions before him and cleansing him. It doesn't make us like just better and in better standing with him because we do that, but it's because that stuff clutters our hearts and our minds, and it really does affect our relationship with him because of all these things we just said about him. And the other thing it does is it makes it hard for us to be able to see the good that he's doing in our lives. It actually creates a barrier in there that makes it hard for us to see the things that we can be thankful for. It affects us. So the next thing I want to ask you to do again is out loud is share something you are thankful for this week that he has done. Something that you've been blessed by. This is different than a characteristic, but is there something in your life in the midst of all the just flat out crap going on all around us? And the stuff that maybe you added to by those things you just confessed, that you can go, thank you for this. Thank you for this. Is there anything that you'd share on that? That you would just say, thank you, God. Maybe if it's even simply thank you in the midst of what I just confessed, that you didn't give up on me. And that you still love me and you are right here with me even right now. Is there anything we'd share that we're thankful for? Thankful that you still got friends. For this community. Thankful for this community. Anybody else? I think of what Ashton just said about him being alive. I'm thankful that he is still willing to provide life. Real life. We share that and we say that because the thing that's easy to do is the thing we're going to finish this with and say, and in the midst of all this, God, I still need your help with whatever. I still need you because of whatever. And I want to just give you a chance to share that. We call them prayer requests. But I still need you. We talked about one that we're going to continue to remember with the Mawson family. That we just took some time praying for, and we're not going to quit doing that. I think of the Schneider family in Chauncey, and we know we're going to be trying to help where we can there when that time comes. In the moment, we can still pray for them. But maybe you have something more specific that you just want to share for this moment. Is there any others that are out there? Any of them that you just don't want to share, but there is something there that you just raise your hand and say, yeah? Can you raise your hand if you got one of those? We're all that good. We're doing that well. Not even a prayer request. I'm sure there's something, but what we just did was went through what they call the acts of prayer. Where we remember why we adore him. And we confess the things that we've done with that understanding that we know that isn't right in the presence of that God that we adore. But we're thankful that he is still involved in our life, but that doesn't mean we don't still have supplication and requests that we present to him every day. That's something we need to be doing on a regular basis, is that acts of prayer and talking to him. That's what we just walked through together. And I felt it was important for us to practice that in a moment. Yeah, it's a lot quicker version than what you may do on your own time, or maybe it's longer than what you may do. But I encourage you to even use those little blue journals we gave you, and even start out in the morning each day and write down that word Acts, and then next to it, write your stuff. And sit with him and talk to him, that act of prayer. Because we can sing as much as we want, and we can continue to gather as much information as we can gather by watching online or coming and listening to another message. If we aren't before him with all of it, we'll never become deeper and more of that fruit-bearing follower of him that he desires for us to be. And we'll miss out. So I encourage you to walk through that. In the meantime, God, I pray that you would help continue to walk us to that point. God, I do know that there are people that are in here that didn't want to say anything, or, to be honest, God, we've just created an environment where we don't want to talk, and that's not good. And I pray that you would help us to overcome that and still share the things that are on our hearts, our struggles with each other, so we don't become so distant and so unconnected from each other that we can't walk together. That you would show us how we can still communicate and open our hearts to each other with both thanksgiving and with supplication, with the things that are heavy and are hard and we just need help with, and with the things we're thankful for that we can celebrate and we want someone to celebrate with. Pray that you would just continue to walk us through to be able to do that, but start with reminding us that we can always do it with you, that you are always available, that you are there and you're ready and you're listening and you're waiting, even amongst our mistakes and our shortcomings and our mess ups. You're not walking away from us. Your love never fails. And nothing can separate us from it. You want us. So remind us of that, and those things that might not have been shared, that a few hands were lifted for, God, I pray that you would, in those situations, in a way that they know, they would see that you're at work in their life. They would see that you're at work in the situation. They would see that you are providing the healing in whatever form is needed in that particular situation. And they would truly, fully experience you in a new and fresh way through it. In the meantime, we will continue to lift the Malsum family, to lift the Schneider family, to lift others that haven't been brought up this morning to you, and pray that you would walk them through step by step, day by day, moment by moment, this whole process. And in the meantime and in the end, we'll look forward to just celebrating and giving you thanks for what you do. So hear these prayers, hear what's on the people's hearts, and just be the living act of God. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Fall down, we lay our crowns at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. We cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. We fall down, we lay our crown at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. We cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. Holy, holy, holy. And we cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb.
our interaction, I guess, on Sunday mornings and make it a little bit more of a, hey, let's actually do something type of a feel, not just a, here, let's listen. Just tell me, I can't tell what you're doing. Okay. I'm telling you, anybody in the back is a blur. So all I know is Leanne was doing jumping jacks trying to tell me something there, and I have no idea what it was. Anyway, so I want to start out again by asking, can anybody tell me what we have talked about the last 2 weeks? Overall, overarching, main point, main emphasis for the last 2 weeks. I did. And I'm about to ask it again. So that's, and Kathy, you're one of the only two that actually gave me an answer on that, you and Eileen. I asked why did I ask that question? What do you want people, and I tried to be less morbid and say maybe just when you turn 90, but, or later on in life, or someone described you as you get older, but yes, at least at our funeral, when usually that's when people say things about us. Otherwise, isn't it always weird how people don't really ever take the time to stop and celebrate a life until it's not with us anymore? Like, I've kind of often wondered, why don't we do that more, where we just pick somebody and celebrate them while they're there to be able to hear it and to know what's going on. It's just kind of one of those weird things we as humans do, that we wait till that point. But I asked that question for a reason. Can anybody tell me what it was? It's because it helps us kind of give us a goal for two things we've talked about the last couple of weeks. Creating disciplines in our life, spiritual disciplines specifically, we talked about both, that are part of a bigger what? Rule of life. Yes. The reason I asked that question was to give us a goal for which to shoot so that we can start creating spiritual disciplines in our life, or even any other kinds of disciplines in our lives to help us get there and make it a part of our overall rule of life. Because the bottom line is we need to be thinking about our overall rule of life. We all have a rule of life. We just may not be conscious to what it is. It may just be something we do habitually and naturally and not really consider what it is, but it's something that we can actually have a little more, for lack of a better word, control over, or a little more focus on, or a little more ability to look at. And the reason we have that goal of that rule of life and those disciplines are to help provide a direction in our lives to help us get to the destination that we want to get to, which in this case was to be that person that people are going to talk about at our funeral. And so I asked, what do you hope? Not what do you think people will say about you at your funeral, but what do you hope that people will say about you? The question that I have today is, have you been working on your I hope they say about me thoughts this week? Because I think it's important that we actually do take time at times to stop and reflect on our lives, and we'll talk about kind of why that's so important here in this today. But have we taken time to really actually stop and sit down and write down even, this is what I hope is said about me at my funeral, or at my 50th birthday party if we're in our 20s, or even, I mean, it doesn't have to wait till the end of your life. It's something that hopefully can work on earlier and live that out so that they definitely will say that about it later. Have we been working on that? Have we put thought into that? Because again, I think we all have a little bit there, but if we don't have a destination for our lives, we're not going to really know what direction to set. And life's going to take us wherever it wants to take us then. It is good to have some kind of a goal, some kind of a desire, some kind of a destination there. So I want to even ask to right now, or even at a point, is it important to you to know how others would describe you when your life is over and everything's gone back in the box? Is it important to you to know how people are going to describe you? Or even at that point? Because if not, we need to stop and we need to think about why. Why is that not important to me? Is it important to you to know the destination for which you wish to arrive? where that said, when your life, the one that God put you on here for a reason for, is over. We don't want to take too much time because we're going to talk about hurry today. So we don't want to take too much time to write it again. But I want to encourage you this week, please stop at some point and work on that. Literally write it down somewhere on there. Literally put that down. It's important. And if we think, nah, it's not, I can make it, I'll be good, I'm going to just be honest and say, no, you won't. Because life is that influential. Life has that much pressure. Life has that much push. If we don't take time to stop and think about it, it will take us where it wants us to go. There is still an enemy that prowls around like a roaring lion looking for people to devour, and he will. We don't have something there. That's one of the reasons why the things we're talking about have been pushed aside for years, because we've gotten so confident in ourselves and our abilities that we think we can just do it. We don't need all that. And we are struggling today. We're struggling. So that's why we talked about developing an overall rule of life, and we will provide kind of an overall blueprint of that so that you can work on a rule of life for your life. We will get that out to you. But also, that's why we're going to talk about specific disciplines that you might want to consider as part of that rule of life. Disciplines that have been around for centuries, that have helped so many people to be able to do that. In the meantime, I want to just give you a real quick list of books that I encourage you to read that I think are so good. Because I'm going to be honest, a lot of this stuff that I'm sharing is not because I've got it mastered. I'm way far from it. I'm more intrigued with it now than I've been in a long time. I more believe in it now than I ever have. But it isn't there. So I'm going to guys that have a lot more wisdom and more experience and more proof that it works than this saying this is all me. There's a book by Chuck Swindoll called So You Want to Be Like Jesus. I encourage you, pick that up. Give that a read. There's a book by Richard Foster called Celebration of Discipline. Pick that up. Give that a read. There's a book by John Ortberg called The Life You've Always Wanted. I quoted him a lot last week. I'll quote him this week. All these guys are guys that I'll be quoting. The Life You've Always Wanted by John Ortberg. Down the same line. I encourage you, pick that up and give it a read. There's a book that's a little more academic type, but is still very good, called Soul Feast. I think her name is Marjorie Thompson that wrote that. Again, I encourage you, pick that up, give it a read. And if you're wondering about all these and I'm saying them too fast, they're all sitting in my office and I can show them to you and you can take a picture even, if you can't get them written down. But one that I've really been caught up on and I'm reading through again, and actually will be a big basis of today, is one by a guy named John Mark Comer, who's a little more our current, like he's younger, he's today, that still has the same mentality and philosophies. He's a pastor at Bridgetown Church in Portland, Oregon. So if you want to talk about a place where things can get sidetracked real easy, that's where he actually is. But he's got this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And this is one of those my kids most hate me reading because of his talk about what technology has done to us today. And the reality of that and the study he's done there and how that affects and how that carries us and takes us places. But this one here is very, very powerful read. And I encourage you, pick that one up and give it a read. And again, the reason why is because of this. I was reading this in my own time again today when Paul was writing to young Timothy as he prepared himself to go into ministry, and Paul was mentoring him, and Paul was preparing him, and Paul was trying to get him ready for his job in the ministry, whatever it was. Paul says these words in the process of his letter to me. He says, the Spirit clearly says, catch this, I know you've heard it, but just listen again. The Spirit clearly says that in later times, some will abandon the faith and will follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons, even. Let me pull back and see that does not necessarily mean it's just a witchcraft, obvious, hey, we're just going to follow that, some cultish thing, but it's still more a demonic teaching. It's not the way of Jesus type teaching. If it's not Jesus' way, then whose way is it? And it says, in the later times, some will abandon the faith. They'll follow these deceiving spirits, the things taught by demons. And such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. That stuff he said as he's preparing him is, Timothy, just know this is coming. We need to be reminded of that regularly. And I think Jesus knew that was coming. And that's why he actually said these words in his final days to his disciples that we've been looking at together that I want to look at again. Knowing that this is getting ready to take place, knowing that this was going to be coming, that's why Jesus says in John 15, I am the true vine. So knowing that these teachers are coming, these hypocritical liars, as he calls them, these things taught by deceiving spirits and demons, and it doesn't have to just be a spiritual topic that these things are coming through, but knowing that this is going to be coming, that people were going to be facing this, and they're going to get caught in. Jesus' desire, one of his main last words, desires with his disciples was to hear this. Remember, in the midst of this, everybody, I, Jesus says, am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. He says, you are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. And so here's his desire. So with all this in mind, with me being the branch and you being the vine, remain in me. Because all this stuff is coming. In the later days, the Spirit clearly says this is going to be happening. So you remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. If you try and go off on your own, you're done for. You're not going to be able to do it, Jesus says. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine. You are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. In fact, he says, if you do not remain in me and you're apart from me, you're more like a branch that is thrown away and withers, that are picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you, because this is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. So knowing this is coming, Jesus' desire is remain in me, remain in me, remain in me. I told you, he says it 6 times in that short little part there. Remain in me, stay connected to me, stay with me like I'm going to stay with you. Stay here and you will continue to be able to bear the fruit that leads you to be that person you say that you want people to say about you at your funeral. Because remember, the bearing of fruit doesn't mean you're just going to be able to do amazing things and you're going to get rich and you're going to be successful. Maybe in the process that stuff will happen, but the bearing fruit that Scripture talks about that Jesus is referring to is the fruit of the Spirit, which is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. He says, when you remain in me, you will be able to bear this fruit. And when you are not with me, you'll get picked off, because the Spirit clearly says in later days, people are going to fall for deceitful teaching. And you'll get picked off, and you'll get picked off, and you get picked off, and you're going to struggle being a person of love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness and self-control. And at worst, you'll be a jerk, you'll be an idiot. You'll think you're wise, but really not. And it may be actually even worse than that. You'll just be apathetic to life. And you'll just go through motions. So he says, remain in me, remain in me, remain in me. And then to do this, Timothy, going back to his letter to Paul, when he says what's coming, he tells Paul to have nothing to do with godless myths and old wives' tales, but rather train yourself to be godly. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. Train yourself, discipline yourself, prepare yourself for this. That's why we're talking about developing that rule of life in the spiritual disciplines. The first discipline, I guess if you want to call it, the first route that we're going to go into is to be developing an intimacy with Jesus, through him with God. Now, was thinking of this because, and by the way, a little congratulations, and we get for the first time in our presence, Mr. and Mrs. Kale in here with Selena and Ben back with us today. They just got married and just got back with their honeymoon, and yeah, watch their Facebook page. They did some crazy stuff. I don't know if she'll show anybody or not on there. I just want to know what it means when we're done, so don't leave till I can tell me what that means on there. But we just got to do their wedding, and I'm getting ready next weekend to do my last one of the season with, I think they're back to their blur, but I see the red beard, so I'm pretty sure that's Jacob sitting back there. Alex and Jacob back there getting ready to do their wedding next week. And on one hand, I'm thankful this is it for the wedding season for me. But when you get to this point, it's not big. I mean, I love going through each process. I love going through each wedding, but it gets hard for me because I feel like I've said the same things so many times that I have to remind myself that the same people haven't been there the same time. And it is a little different for each one, but an overall wedding is fairly the same. So I get to that point where you start getting tired, but also you also look back and you think through the weddings that you did. And for me, I actually, for every single wedding I've ever done, I make a little black book for myself. And that is because when I got married right here on this platform with my grandpa officiating it, he had one book and he would cross out names on that thing. Unfortunately, either he forgot to cross out name or whatever, but I was Keith a lot through that wedding when he would talk about me, which is my older cousin that he must have done shortly before me or whenever. But I wasn't Jared, I was Keith. And so I made a determination that when I do it, I'm making a new book because, again, when you do a bunch of them, especially when they're close together, you can sometimes actually just get names mixed up in your head. You know where you are, you know who you're with, but it just happens, especially when you're in front of people. So that's for that, and also because I want to look back. And I've got a growing collection of little black books in my office. And I also like to make an extra one and give it to the couple so they have a copy of their wedding and basically what was said at their wedding. And so I have this, and I love, one thing I do enjoy doing at the end of a season is just looking back on that and just reflecting on the weddings, especially when now with COVID, there's already 4 of them booked for next year because people are planning so far out. I want to just stop and think. And when I do that, I think through the conversations, the premarital counseling, each couple is different. They're just, the personalities are different. The experience is different. But that's actually one of my favorite parts is getting to meet with the couples and getting to know their story and getting to hear, the first question I ask them is, so why now? Like, why are you getting married? What made you decide this was it? And getting to hear that story and how different it is. But partly what it does too is it takes me back to my own with Leanne, where I can reflect back on my own story. And the one thing that I'm always thankful for when I think back of our own, it sounds kind of weird, but one of the things I'm most thankful for now, I didn't necessarily at the time, but now when I look back, is the fact that we didn't get to actually see each other after we initially saw each other again for I don't remember what it was, almost 6 months or so. Because I lived in Portland and she lived here. I wasn't coming back. I came back on a Christmas. We reconnected, and I would really say really first connected because before she was just, I like to say the brother's annoying little girlfriend. That was how I knew her before because she dated my brother. But it wasn't like I ever had an interest in Leanne growing up. I didn't even know I was supposed to. She was dating him, never thought of that. So this was really, we reconnected and met each other again, but it was really the first connecting when I was back for Christmas and was told she wanted to talk about some stuff. Well, I can tell you, and I've kind of joked, but I'm serious about it at the same time. I knew something was different after we'd talked a little bit. We'd been to Dairy Queen. Our family went to a movie in the Hayes Theater. We invited her to come to that. And I remember turning around and looking in the back. She'd come in after we were there in her black leather coat. And I went, oh my goodness, Leanne got hot. That's really what went through my head. Like, what in the world? She's hot. Which is a good thing, and I still have that picture in my head, but this is why I look back on what I'm about to say now that I think is one of the best things for us, is that after that initial time of seeing her here during Christmas break, I had to go back to Oregon. She was still here finishing up school. our only way to communicate was through the phone. And the reason that I'm thankful for that when I look back on that is because that made me have to stop and talk to her and get to know her through communication. Otherwise, the problem would have been that every time we were out, all I'd be thinking is, she's hot, she's hot, she's hot. And then all the temptations that come with that. We're just being honest. So that would be something that would be driving things more. Instead, this way, I can't see her. I can only hear her voice on the phone, and we talk about things that we probably want to talk about because, if you've ever been on that situation before, when you're on a phone, you're just talking and you end up going into conversations that you may not have gone into if you were just out on another date or doing an activity together or whatever. You just talk because you're enjoying that. And the truth is that by doing that, without even realizing that at the moment, that just developed the relationship and even the intimacy, I guess you could say, between us even more, because we actually got to know what each other thought and how each other felt and whatever else. That was all a part of it. And at the time, I never really thought of it, but as I go through these other processes and hear their stories, I think back on that and I tell God, thank you for that. Because by the time we were finally able to be together and to see each other, a lot of that had been discussed and talked about and everything else. Now, obviously, once you're finally with somebody, there's other things you learn and that you got to work through and stuff. But a lot of that groundwork and those conversations and that intimacy had been developed because we had to stop, and all we could do is talk to each other and listen to each other and get to know each other. In that, probably had a bigger effect on our relationship, even with its ups and downs and everything else. That right there in itself probably had more impact and ability to help us in our marriage than I will ever know. Because that kind of stuff does help relationships, and it's no different in our relationship with God. The need to just stop and actually communicate with Him. This is why Paul actually said in one of his letters in Philippians, he says, I want to know Christ. I want to know Him. This idea of know isn't just meaning I want to go to another church service and hear about Him. I want to have somebody preach to me. I want to read another book that talks about Him. This word know has a lot deeper. It's I don't even know how to say the root word, but it actually means to know and to understand and to perceive and to have knowledge of, to become acquainted with. And in the Jewish idiom, it's actually for sexual intercourse between a man and a woman. That's how deep that word know is. Which we know, as we say that's why that act has so much power behind it, because of that intimacy, that part of knowing somebody else. When they would say to know, sometimes they thought about being that closely connected and getting to know each other. Paul says, I want to know Christ. That's a discipline that he developed in his life, was to create an intimacy with Christ. Because without it, it just becomes a routine and a ritual or even a religion, and it doesn't produce much fruit within us. So the first discipline that we're going to focus on for these next month or so is the discipline of actually getting to know Christ and developing an intimacy with Him. Not just to know about Him and to hear more stuff, but actually develop things in our life that can help us get to know Him. And I'm just going to hit on the first one today, because there's actually 4 that we're going to go through. The first is to slow down. The second is, in that slow down, to be quiet and actually listen to Him, or be quiet in order to listen to Him. The third is to take in what He has to say. And then the fourth is to talk to Him, which, if you think about it, what I just described with my relationship was exactly what we did, and what you probably did in yours, and what you do anytime you develop a deeper friendship and intimacy with someone. You stop and slow down long enough that you can actually spend time with them and be quiet so that you can listen to what they have to say and talk to them. That's how relationships and intimacy is truly developed. Just jumping into a situation and going whatever together and doing an act together, whatever, that doesn't create a close connection and relationship. That's a moment. But creating true intimacy takes these. For us, and the one I want to look at today and have us just really consider this week, we need to remember that it begins with learning to slow down. In the Psalms, we hear this a lot, but do we really stop and consider it? The psalmist actually says, "Be still and know that I am God." I know you've heard that before, but he says, "Be still and know that I am God." You know why he would have to say to do that? Because when we're not still, we forget that God even is around a lot of times. We need to be able to stop sometimes and just be still and remember him. Eugene Peterson in The Message, I like how he says it. He says, "Attention all, see the marvels of God. He plants flowers and trees all over the earth. He bans war from pole to pole. He breaks all the weapons across his knee." So his version of be still is, so step out of the traffic. And I love that. Step out of the traffic. Step out of the traffic of life. That's his version of be still. Take a long, loving look at me, your high God. And I find it interesting, especially at the time we're in, that he actually puts us in here above politics and above everything. Look at me. That's his translation of that psalmist version of be still and know that I am God. Jesus, with this in mind, gives us that amazing invitation that Shelley actually read earlier today, to come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Take your yoke upon you, take my yoke upon you, and learn from me. Well, in order to do that, you got to stop and be still and know that he is there. This is a special invitation, but the only way we'll experience it is if we will actually slow down for a while. Now, again, these guys that I've told you that I've been reading, there's tons of quotes that I've got pages of quotes that I typed up. I'm like, man, this is good, this is good, this is good, but I can't show all of them to you. But Swindoll says, our great tendency in this age is to increase our speed, to run faster, even in the Christian life. And he says, in the process, our walk with God stays shallow and our tank runs low on fumes. So the truth is, Ortberg says, is hurry is the great enemy of the spiritual life in our day. Hurry can keep us from living well because people are just too busy to live emotionally healthy and spiritually rich and vibrant lives. And that's why we have to come back to that invitation to slow down. Now here's the scary thing. It's happening at a younger and younger and younger age all the time. In fact, I want you to just watch a short little 1 to 2 minute confession of this young woman with this in mind. Watch the screen here.
I'm the athletic trainer for softball, baseball, soccer, track, basketball, volleyball, and football. It is an all-year thing, and it is a very big time-consuming activity that I do. Hopefully it's going to help me like within the medical field and sports medicine and physical therapy. There have been times where my parents are like, you have been coming home so late because of practices and you just don't have time for anything anymore. You always like grab stuff on the go to eat and you just head to practice or something. And that's what I tend to do. I don't have time to go to church or hang out with my friends because of athletic training. Like I'll study till maybe 2 o'clock in the morning and then I'll have to wake up at 6. You know, I just don't have time like for a quiet time at all. And I feel like that's the last thing I want to do. It just like makes it harder for me to go about my day and to like with all the struggles, it's just like, I don't know what to do and I don't rely on him like I probably should. I feel distant more than anything from God. I'm not as strong as I used to be. I feel like my problems are a lot bigger. I feel like I'm at a crossroad now. I have to choose, you know, and I feel like I can't do both. But then at the same time, I feel like if I put in that little extra time, even though I've been up since 2 a.m, that I could. And I just don't choose to. Like, I've put athletic training before God, most definitely. And I feel like I am worshiping an idol just because of it, because it's so time consuming. I don't have time for God.
I don't know how old she is, but I don't have time for God. And look how young she is. This is, if we were to be honest, this is unfortunately one of the curses and one of the realities of our day. When we look at our schedules, we get to a point of going, I really don't have time for God. And often what it leads to is, so I'll do it tomorrow. Well, guess what? We don't have time tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And so what's scary and why it's so hurtful and harmful to our walk with Him and to our actually being able to bear fruit and remain in Him is because it's coming at us so much more all the time at a younger and younger age. There was actually a study done by a guy named Michael Zigarelli from the Charleston Southern University School of Business. He conducted obstacles to growth survey of over 20,000 Christians across the globe. And he identified busyness as a major distraction from spiritual life. Here's this hypothesis, and I encourage you to listen to this carefully. It says, it may be the case that Christians are assimilating to a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload, which leads to God becoming more marginalized in Christians' lives, which leads to a deteriorating relationship with God, which leads to Christians becoming even more vulnerable to adopting the secular assumptions about how to live, which leads to more conformity to a culture of busyness, hurry, and overload. And then the big thing at the end, and then the cycle begins again. That was his hypothesis. That's not a pastor. That's not some crudgety old parent that just wants to teach his kids something. That is somebody from the Charleston Southern University School of Business who did this and conducted this study and realized the cycle that is taking place because of busyness and hurry in our lives. What we need to remember is that God will never adjust His agenda to fit ours. He will not speed His pace to catch up with ours. We need to slow our pace in order to recover with Him. And the pace He walks is one, it's a book I'm actually getting ready to order. We've done this before, is about 3 miles an hour. Because that's the speed that an average person walks and what Jesus walked every day. That's the pace He goes. He's not going to just all of a sudden go, oh, you're running, I'll run with you. Does He love us? Yes, but He's going, no, because that's not going to help you. Slow down and walk with me. Don't get so caught up in so much hurry and busyness that you can't even do spiritual battle with me. Stop, be still, know that I'm God, and reflect on this. So that leads us to asking, what are some of the symptoms that I know that I'm too busy and that I'm too hurried? Here's just some ideas. I constantly speed up my daily activities in order to get them all done. John Ortberg says, I know that I have hurry sickness when I'm haunted by the fear that there are just not enough hours in the day to get done what needs to be done. And so I'm constantly hurrying things up to get there. I know that I have a symptom that I'm too busy and hurried when I'm regularly getting to things just on time, or getting to events, or getting to wherever I need to be just on time or a little late because I pushed it to the limit with whatever else I've been working on. That's a symptom that I may be too busy and in too much hurry. It's a symptom that I'm too busy and in hurrying too much when I'm at an event or something and I can't relax because my mind is on what else still needs to get done. That's a symptom where God may be going, hey, and by the way, and again, down the road we'll talk about this, our bodies, our minds, our emotions tell us these symptoms, listen to them. When I'm multitasking with most everything I do, it might be a symptom that I'm a little too busy and hurried. When my life seems to be filling up with a lot of clutter, that includes in my physical life, in my mind, my emotions, and my heart. You know, I was thinking of this the other day. You know, a good sign in our family when we are at a busy time in our life is I just watch the sink. Because you don't even have time to get the dishes rinsed off and put in a dishwasher. It just gets done and gets put on the side. That's a good sign to me that our family is at a point in our life or a moment or a period where we're too busy, when we only have enough time to eat it real quick and get it in the sink. We'll get to that later. That's just a small idea of clutter, but some of us have a bigger thing of clutter that continues to build because we're just too busy to get to it. But a lot of times it's more in our emotions and the clutter in our minds with all the stuff going on in our hearts. But if my life is filling up with clutter, when I'm okay with settling for superficiality, when I'm okay in my relationship with God, going, you know what, I'm okay with just going to church, taking that in, or just sitting and watching online and doing that and calling it good, but not going any deeper because I'm too busy and too hurried, well, that's a symptom that we're too busy and too hurried. That I'll just take the little offer that's presented to me, that's good enough. A symptom that Ortberg brings up is one often called sunset fatigue. This sunset fatigue is one a guy named Lewis Grant says we're afflicted with when we come home at the end of a day's work, and those who need our love the most, those to whom we are most committed, end up getting the leftovers. Sunset fatigue is when we're used to being too tired or too drained or too preoccupied to love the people to whom we have made the deepest promises. He says that's a good symptom. A person can really see this when they know their marriage is struggling, but they're too busy to take time to stop and listen to their spouse. When they know their child is struggling and they're having issues, but they can't stop or they're too tired to stop and visit with them about it. That's sunset fatigue. That's a symptom of too busy and too hurried. Another symptom is when I don't have the ability to love because I'm just too tired and I'm too frustrated and I'm too irritated, and I actually live a life of irritability and anger and annoyance. Hurry and love are like oil and water. They just don't go together. And I'm sure you can think of moments where you had an opportunity or you should have lived love to somebody, but you were in such a hurry you couldn't do it. These are symptoms of that. For me personally, in all authenticity, I realize I'm showing symptoms of being too busy or hurried when my wife says I need to let something go and I get offended and irritated by it, even though I know she's right. I realize I'm at a point, I'm at a bad place. And she says, maybe you shouldn't do that. And that bugs me. I'm too busy or hurried when I can't stop my mind from wondering about the next project on my list that I need to do when I should be doing something else. Taking a shower this morning, and I got to tell you, I've been hurried and busy all morning because for whatever reason, I shut the alarm off on my phone and didn't get up till Leanne's went off. So the first words out of my mouth this morning were, oh crud. And Leanne's first words were, did you go through your alarm? And so my morning was rushed. I'm trying to get my mind refocused back on this morning, and I'm in the shower, and you know what I'm thinking about? I wonder if I put edging over there and put the rock in over there and that with the next project that was on my list instead of what needed to be in front of me. That's not a good sign. I know that I'm at a point of going, something's not right. I know I'm too busy and hurried when I don't even feel like I have enough time to stop and pray. I fall right into the trap that Bill Hybels shared in his book, Too Busy to Pray, that he wrote years ago. Or I'm too busy and hurried when I commit to doing things, but I don't follow through on the commitments, or when I do, I just do it half-hearted to get it done, and I don't do my best on it. Some real specifics with this in mind that have caught my attention is that I know I'm too busy and hurried when I can go out on a Friday night to enjoy and relax for a meal with my wife and my daughter, and I'm frustrated that the food's taking too long to get there. That's way too bad. The whole point was to slow down and to go out and relax and spend time, and I'm frustrated. Something's not right. When I'm frustrated by that, I'm too hurried and I'm too busy. And if you ever watch me on a walk, there's times where I get angry at the dog because he wants to stop and pee so much and takes too long to poop. because I got to get back and I got to get my shower and I got to get ready for the day. And I'm chewing out the dog at 6 o'clock in the morning on a dark corner. Probably would get thrown into jail if people watch me walk by, be like, Bumper, stop it, and get after him. You know what's amazing is he never talks back. He just looks at me like, what's your problem? But I know I stop and go, what is my problem? Or what really got me this week on Friday afternoon, when I take a break at 3 to 3:30 in the afternoon to run to McDonald's to grab a cup of coffee, because I just needed a mental break for a moment to go grab a cup of coffee, and I'm preparing a talk about slowing down, but I'm frustrated because the line is taking too long to get through. And then because the exit that I picked that looked like the quickest one to get out, another vehicle pulls out, and then a truck goes by, and then that exit that I could have went to that the other ones did go by in front of me, and I'm mad that they beat me. That is a sign that I'm a little too busy and a little too hurried. And the most obvious sign that fits for all of us is the one when people say, how are you doing? And I constantly say, I'm good. I'm just busy. These are symptoms and signs that I've looked at from my own life that I think we can look at ours. Why might I get myself to this place? Well, there's some good reasons. There's some good intentions that might lead us there. Maybe I've been trained and conditioned to work hard and to stay busy my whole life. And you're taught, idle hands are the devil's what? Workshop. Don't be lazy. Don't lay around. The early bird gets the what? Which is disgusting, but still it works for us. Makes the point. I've been taught, I've been trained, I grew up in a family where they worked. You're supposed to be working. You sit around, you're being kind of lazy. You're sleeping in till 9, that's not good. You should be up already going. Someone put something on Facebook this week, I think it was fun. It might have been you, Shane, I don't know, but somebody where their dad always gets after him for sleeping in. I get up at 4:30 in the morning to get to work. And I think it said like 5:36 he's asleep in his chair in the evening. And they're laughing at that because, they heard that their whole life. Get up, get going, even though they're asleep before the other ones are. But been trained on that. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good to work hard. We're called to do that. And then to rest. But that's what can lead me into that. That's just ingrained in me. Work hard, work hard, work hard. Others might have that same thing. That's one reason we could get to this point. The other reason we may get there that's not necessarily a bad thing is because we have a rescuer mentality and we want to help people. We want to help people in need, so we jump in. We get involved with their lives, and before we know it, we get involved with their lives, and then we get involved with their lives, and we get involved with their lives, and we're still just one person who are not God, and now we're super busy. That's why one thing that I've really started to hang on to more and more all the time, I love Andy Stanley has said, do for one what you wish you could do for all. Because so many people want to help so many people, but you just can't. So find the one that you feel that you really can and do for them what you wish you could do for everybody. But that desire to help and be a part of their lives is why we might get ourselves to that place. But then there's also not so good reasons. And we need to check our hearts on this. Maybe it's because something unusual has happened that's put me in this place. Now, this is kind of an in-between, actually. Things happen in life. There are moments in life. Your alarm, you shut it off. You don't have as much time now. You're in a hurry. Difficult, tragic type moments happen in our lives that just throw it into chaos from what we were doing. And now there is no choice but to be hurried and busy. That's not necessarily a my fault kind of thing, but it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something that happens for a season of life. I'm busy. But then there are things that we add to it, like my control personality or my control issues, and I want or need to be in charge of something. Or maybe it's because I have pride and I have a pride issue and I think I'm the only one that can get things done. Or maybe it's because my mind and my activities are focused on things that aren't what God has in mind, and I'm constantly striving to get those done. Or maybe it's just because I bought into the lie that we share in this country that busyness and being hurried is a badge of honor and effectiveness and success. When we talk to somebody and we hear them say, I'm so busy, I'm doing this and this and this, we often look at them and go, that person must really be getting a lot done. They must be pretty special. If someone says, well, I haven't really done anything for a week, I just kind of chilled and got some stuff done, what's the first thing we think? Lazy. It's ingrained in our culture, and we bought into that lie that busyness and hurry is a sign of success and achievement and effectiveness. They don't know what's going on in here. So these are the ways that we can get in there and get ourselves in this thing. Now, again, I want to say it's important to work hard. God has even called us to work hard for those 6 days and then take a day to rest. I do not promote just being lazy in the name of slowing down. But maybe for a day, we need to be lazy. We need to stop. I also understand, like I said, there are seasons that are beyond. Harvest time in this area is a great example where, yes, it's busier than normal. We're more hurried. It's that particular season. The problem happens when that season turns into the next season, into the next season, into the next season. But there are seasons. So I don't want to pretend like those aren't there. There are even moments in our jobs where we're busier than normal. Those things come. Or again, where things happen that are out of our control. But don't let one turn into the next and the next and the next. And to do that, here's just 3 things that maybe we can do as we get ready to finish this to slow ourselves down. Just 3 very practical things. And again, I encourage you, please actually try these. Don't just listen. Try and implement these things, and maybe you'll even come up with some others. The first is this: deliberately choose to place yourself in positions where you simply have to slow down and wait. Like deliberately choose not the fast line, but the slow line. If there's somebody that you know that you need to talk to, and you see a few people in there, you're like, I ought to visit with them, I ought to visit with them. I mean, kind of make a game out of this. I ought to visit with them. Go find the person that you know is the slowest talker that's going to keep you there for a long time. And go visit with them for a little bit. Bend your ear to them. If you're taking a drive, maybe to Hayes and back, drive the actual speed limit of 75. Not 78, 9, 80. I think I've been told if you go 79 or less, you won't get pulled over. So how many of us push 79 or 80? You know what's funny though? I've done that, and still every time I see a cop, I still go slower. Even though I've been told that that's there. Sorry, Ben, I'm confessing, okay? But try to actually just drive 75. Or better yet, don't take the interstate. There's this thing called Old 40, which has a pretty beautiful view, at least from Hayes to Ellis. It's still blacktop. Drive that and actually pay attention to the surroundings around you one time. But deliberately say, you know what? I'm going to take an extra 10 minutes, if even that, to deliberately slow myself down out there when I'm driving back and forth. Eat your food slowly, someone suggested. Now, this to me is too hard, but they say take at least 10 to 15 bites between chews. There's only one person in my life that I know that can do that, and that's my brother John. And I think he's like 15 to 30 bites between chews. Other than that, I don't know, but they say just even eat your food slowly. If you're eating Cheerios, I don't know. Kennedy, do you think you can get 15 bites out of a mouthful of Cheerios, or would that be mush? It'd be pretty gross, huh, at that point. But eat it slowly. Take your time. The grocery store, get in the longer line instead of the shorter one, or go to the person at the checkout counter who likes to talk. Again, I love our grocery store. I love small town groceries. But man, the difference between that and a city is they want to talk to you here. You know how many times I go and I get annoyed because they want to visit? That's bad. Open yourself up to being willing to visit and go in the slower line at the grocery store. So if Ashlyn looks like she's talkative while she's checking out, go see Ashlyn. If she's in that just checking people out mood and she's not talking, go to the other one. Okay? So Ashlyn, you heard this, so you can help us. If you're not talking, tell us to go to the other one, okay? To practice the discipline. Can you do that? Deliberately put ourselves in positions to slow ourselves down. Second, adopt and be okay with the word no, both for ourselves and from others. Again, if we have that helper personality and mentality, that's really hard because we feel like we've let somebody down when we say no. The truth is, maybe we have for the moment. For the most part, they will get over it. If they don't, there's a deeper issue there in the first place. Now, if you already told me do yes, and then you come back and say no, that's different. But if somebody asks you to do something new, be okay with the word no. At the same time, if no has been said to you, accept it. Be okay with that. Maybe that's God protecting you from adding another thing that is just going to make you way too busy. But be okay, adopt and be okay with the word no. And I can tell you, that's very hard for me. When I tell somebody no just because of my job, people expect the answer to be yes every time when they ask something. That's hard for me to feel like I'm not doing my role as a pastor if I don't say yes. But we need to adopt that word. And then finally, determine if I trust God enough to actually let him take care of the world. Make that determination if I trust God enough to actually let him take care of the world. Take a deep breath in a moment. Put your cell phone away. Let your heart slow down. And at times just say, God, you take care of this. You take care of the world. You handle it. These are 3 just simple little things that we can start practicing right now that will help discipline us to slow down so we can start the steps towards creating intimacy with Jesus. And I encourage us to actually practice that. Maybe not everybody here is in a position in life where they feel super busy and overwhelmed, but still practice it. Maybe some of us here go, I know I am. I encourage you to practice this because we cannot be emotionally and spiritually healthy when we are in such a hurry. It just doesn't go together. And we cannot develop intimacy until we just slow down. I'll just say this, my favorite time still, every week, or whenever we get a chance, is when I can stop, whether we're just driving in a car, and go out and just be with the one that I told you that I spent 6 months on the phone with, just talking. And to be able to just go and sit. I may feel like I have too much to do or may not even want to do it, but once I get there, those are the best nights where we can just, we'll be honest, I talk and she listens type deal. Or we can just be there together, slowing down, away from everything else, and just continue to develop the intimacy in the relationship. It may not feel like angels are singing and birds are chirping every time, but every moment has an impact on our marriage, on our life, and on our soul together, and it is no different with God. So this week, start the discipline of developing intimacy with him and begin it with the idea of figuring out how to maybe slow down a little bit. Okay, let's pray. And I pray that as we talk about this, that is so anti to our culture and to what we are set up in, that you would, first of all, again, give us the confidence to trust you in it. Give us the confidence to know that you are the one that inspired the words, be still and know that I'm God. You are the one that through Jesus spoke to us and said, remain in me. Take the time to just stop and remain in me. Stay connected to me. Develop intimacy with me, because that is what will develop you into the person I created you to be. Help us to, first of all, trust you more and more in that, beyond all the other stuff that comes through our email boxes, our Facebook pages, our TikTok, our Twitter, anything else that comes along. God, help us to hear that. And then to take the steps of Again, not becoming lazy people that just use it as an excuse to just not do anything, but to actually come to you and say, okay, where do I slow down here? Help walk me through it. And I pray through that process, God, that you will continue to develop us and bear the fruit in us as you create us to be the people that you breathe life into us every day to be. So that we again can go out and be that light, be that picture, be what the world needs each and every day in whatever part of the world we're in through our jobs or activities. And we can be that positive hope and light. Thank you again for gathering this particular group, this particular day, this particular time. There's a reason that you did. And thank you for the people that have written those books, those people from the centuries ago that have practiced this and shown how important it is. Thank you for just preserving that and leaving that all for us today. Help us to take advantage of it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys, have a good week. Junior high, high school. See you Wednesday.
I'm not sure.
For whatever reason, Siri really wants to be a part of this today. So go have a good week before it happens again.